Welcome back to the Research Your Rights video series. This video will cover the first part of the eviction process. At the very beginning, the eviction process starts when a landlord gives a tenant an eviction notice. See the Evictions Definitions video for more information about the eviction notice. A tenant might receive an eviction notice telling them to fix a certain problem. If this happens, a tenant has three options. First, the tenant can follow the instructions in the eviction notice. This might mean that the tenant moves out, pays overdue rent, or follows certain rules in their lease agreement. Second, the tenant can try to work out an agreement with the landlord. This process is called mediation. Mediation is when a special professional who isn't on anyone's side, a mediator, helps the tenant and the landlord come to an agreement to fix the problem. Visit the Utah Courts website for more information about mediation. Third, the tenant can decide not to follow the instructions in the notice. No matter what option a tenant chooses, they must take action in a certain time frame. The eviction notice contains the dates a tenant must act by. In Utah, for example, tenants only have 3 days to pay past due rent, and this time frame would be included in the eviction notice. Now here's the tricky part. Even if a tenant chooses the first option and follows the instructions in the eviction notice, the tenant and the landlord still might be able to sue each other for money. The courts call this money damages. A landlord might win damages, like past due rent or money to repair the property. A tenant might win damages, like money from their security deposit. In Utah, if a damages lawsuit happens, it will take place in a small claims court or a Utah district court. Back to the three choices. If a tenant chooses not to follow the instructions in the notice, a landlord can file what's called a summons and complaint with the court. These documents have to be delivered to the tenant, just like the eviction notice. The summons says why a landlord is suing a tenant. The complaint says why a landlord is evicting a tenant and should include a copy of the lease agreement and the eviction notice. See the Research Your Rights Civil Procedure video series for more information about the summons and complaint. You might be thinking, why do the summons and complaint matter? Well, for evictions, these documents are really important. If a tenant receives a summons, they only have 3 days to tell the court they disagree with it. To disagree, a tenant files a document called an answer with the court. For examples and more information about answers, visit the utcourts.gov website. Now back to the timing. If a tenant misses the 3-day window and does not respond, the court can automatically decide the landlord wins the case. So if you're a tenant that does plan to respond, it's best to think of the day that you receive the summons as day 0. That means you need to respond by the end of day 3. As always, great work completing another video. Keep watching to learn more about the eviction process.